Welcome to the Rise Up For You podcast, where thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives from around the world share their practical tips, strategies, and stories to help you unleash your potential and achieve your goals. Your journey of growth to become your best starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast episode. Before we jump in, Natalina Nasruddin here. I wanted to let you know that, hey, when you're not listening to the podcast, when you're not watching the YouTube video, check us out on LinkedIn. We are constantly posting, adding value on LinkedIn, my team and I. We have a Rise Up For You page and has videos, articles, content. It's actually our favorite platform. So if you want to connect with us on a day-to-day basis and you want to get additional content and resources, head over to LinkedIn, follow me, connect with our team, connect with Rise Up For You, and we're happy to share any content, and even send us a message because we'll reply. We're not a bunch of bots. So I'll see you there. And for now, let's jump into today's episode.
Wow. Welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Real Estate. Today we have Natalina as our guest. Neta is the founder and CEO of Rise Up For You, #1 best-selling author, leadership and career confidence coach, and 2-time TEDx motivational speaker. Neta, thanks for coming on. Maybe you want to give us a little information on your background and just kind of where you are, what you're doing.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. Okay, background. Let's see. Okay, let me take it all the way back. So my first career, I was actually a performer. I used to tour the world internationally and sing and dance, lots of musical theater. Had the greatest opportunity of, being in Russia, Japan, Germany, all over the world. And after I got done performing, I realized that what I really loved about the stage was just making an impact. Not so much hearing my voice, but just singing, being able to influence people. And so after I got done performing, I came back to the US and I became an executive of an education corporation. And then in the evening, I was a professor at a community college. So I became like executive educator after performing. And soon after that, I opened the company that I own today, which is Rise Up For You. And we get the best honor of just around the world enhancing companies and people through soft skills. Everything we do is connected to human skills, emotional and social intelligence, confidence, leadership, all the common sense skills that are just not common anymore that really make up about 75% of an individual's success, no matter what industry you're in.
Wow. So Rise Up For You that's your main focus now, and it's a human skills company, emotional, social intelligence.
Yeah.
What would it look like if, let's just say I was like, hey, help me with our company. What would you do? How would that look?
Yeah, it's different for every company because we work with a multitude of industries. But the first thing that we would do is obviously a climate check, right? Understanding what's the climate of the company. And then what do you feel the challenges are when it comes to your team and your people, right? So for example, we just got off a call today with an organization in Canada, and their challenge is that they are recruiting 500 people in the next 2 to 3 months, which is a lot. But their leaders have a little bit of a scarcity mindset around leading. Like they're afraid that if they lead their team to be better than them, then they're going to take their spot as a leader. So they have this disconnect that they're bringing 500 people on, but the leaders are afraid to lead and coach and mentor their team because they don't want their team to be better than them. So you see what I mean? That's a people problem that we need to nip in the butt because the culture and the leadership and the growth of the team is going to be dependent on that.
So what kind of leadership skills would you teach them?
Main thing is emotional and social intelligence. It is by far the most important skill that every single entrepreneur, professional, I don't care who you are and what industry you're in, needs to learn emotional and social intelligence. It's a lot more robust than people think. People think emotional intelligence is self-awareness. Okay, I know my emotions and I can feel yours. There's 18 categories under emotional intelligence, and every single challenge that a person is dealing with today on a human level is connected to EQ.
Wow. Okay. So maybe we could talk a little bit more about that since it's a deeper topic of emotional and social intelligence. So what would be, let's get in some actual granular detail on that. What would be a couple of those categories that you guys would be talking about?
I'll give you a 90-second reel of EQ. How's that sound?
That'd be great.
Okay, so there's 4 pillars of emotional intelligence. The first 2 have to do with you, self-awareness and self-management. Okay. Then there's another 2 pillars that have to do with you and how you show up with other people. So that's social awareness and then relationship management, which is basically all things leadership. So those are your 4 pillars: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and then relationship leadership management. But most people don't know that under those 4 pillars are another 18 competencies. So for example, in under self-awareness, pillar number 1, you have emotional awareness for yourself, accurate self-assessment. So the way that I see myself, if I were to ask 10 people, they would say the exact same thing. Like, how accurate is that? 95% of leaders think that they have accurate assessment. The Harvard Business Review research that only 10% actually do. Okay, so that's accurate self-assessment. And then the third area is something that I talk about a lot. I wrote my entire book on it, and that's self-confidence. So, and I always say that self-confidence impacts your capacity to communicate, to take action, to find clarity, and to have the courage to move forward. So those 3 alone are under just the first pillar of self-awareness. Now that's a lot by itself, especially the self-confidence piece. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So just if I'm following correctly, you said accurate self-assessment is in leaders. 95% of them think they know themselves, but only 10% actually do.
Yes.
How would you go out and figure that information out? I mean, is this something that your company is going to do as well, or is this something that you would have, 15 team members take a survey of, say, hey, who am I really, and then compare and contrast it?
That's exactly right. So every single client that we work with, every company that we work with, every executive, they do an emotional intelligence assessment of themselves, right? Self first. And then we send it to like 5 to 10 of their team members. And then we look at the aggregated data to see how close it is. So I'll give you an example. And they rate themselves on EQ. I just had an executive do this. They gave themselves lots of 9s and 10s, 10's the highest. So a 9 in empathy, 10 in coaching, 9 in motivation, 10 in nonverbal communication. And when their team assessed them, they had lots of 4s and 5s. And they were shocked. They were like, no. And I said, hey, the data doesn't lie. You have 10 team members that are giving you a 4 in empathy. You gave yourself a 9. You have a blind spot. You have a blind spot in that area. And this happened to me when I was an executive. I thought I was the best leader ever. I was 27 at the time. I thought I was warm and fuzzy, and I wanted to help people and make an impact. And nobody would come in and talk to me as an executive. I'm like, how come no one's, like talking to me? I want to mentor. I want to help them. So I decided to do an anonymous survey. I was the only executive that did this. And out of 200 team members, 75% said I was intimidating, not relatable, and I looked mad all the time. Wow. 75%. Wow. I thought I was warm and fuzzy and high energy, and 75% didn't. So my assessment of myself was not accurate. And the only way I could really figure that out is by doing an assessment to see that, no, the numbers don't lie.
Got it. Oh, that's powerful. And I think that it's probably an eye-opener for most people that are listening if you are in a leadership position. And I think more people are in a leadership role than they think. Parents,
100%.
You're in a leadership role. Everyone's leading. You affect everyone you're around. So your ability to lead yourself is going to affect everyone and everything.
That's right.
So let's just say when you realize that data, what do you do about it? Now, do you work on those specific things and become more aware of them on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. And that's the beautiful thing about it is sometimes we can get overwhelmed of oh my gosh, I need to grow my emotional intelligence. What does that look like? And now when you assess yourself, you can say hold on, you gave yourself a 10 in, let's say, emotional stress management, and your team gave you a 9. That's pretty good. That means that you can manage your stress pretty good. You're pretty grounded with your emotions. So we don't need to work on that pillar right now. Okay. That's not to say it can't grow, but we don't need to work on it. But now let's go over here. Your team gave you a 4 in empathy and you gave yourself a 10. We need to start building the empathy muscle. And then that's when we pull in strategies, of course, and different tools and tips to help leaders build these different areas.
Got it. And then the next one I think I heard you say was self-confidence. What are some tips to build self-confidence?
Get this, Dan. Every year, my company will ask thousands of professionals, okay? Professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, not hundreds, thousands, what their number one challenge is. 83% of people say their number one challenge is self-confidence. not feeling enough, perfectionist mindset, imposter syndrome. Even when they reach success, they still don't feel like they're successful. And that really impacts people, not just in their profession, but also in their personal life. So self-confidence is a huge, huge factor. And part of it is because we've spent our whole life building what I call micro level confidence. So micro level confidence is when you build confidence in a category, competency, or thing, right? I'm confident as a singer. I'm confident when it comes to speaking. I'm confident skateboarding. I'm confident coding. I'm confident selling houses, whatever it is. Those are like categories that you build your confidence under. That's called micro. But all of those micros live outside of you, which means that they will change. Inevitably, they can and they will change. And we saw this during COVID. When those things change, because we've built our self-confidence based off of those things, when they change, and they do, your whole identity comes crashing down because you built your self-worth and your identity based off of these things. So when COVID hit, we had thousands of people come to us and say, I lost my job. I lost my money. I lost my title. My business is crashing down. Who am I? What value do I bring to this world? Because we were never really taught to build self-confidence on a macro level, which is an inner belief that you are enough just because you exist, which is an inner belief that you can grow and learn, which is an inner belief that even if everything is falling down around you, that your self-worth and your identity is not attached to those things.
Got it. So the macro level self-confidence is far more important based on what you're saying than the micro level. And some of that would be your inner belief that you can grow and learn. What were a couple of those other things? Because they came pretty quick. I just want to make sure everyone heard those.
Perfectionist mindset prevents you from your potential, right? How many of us know I'm not ready yet? Nope, the timing is not right. It's not perfect. It's not where it needs to be. 10 years go by and you're still in the same spot, right? Because you're waiting for it to be perfect. That gets in the way of your potential, okay? Understanding that failure is research to success. You're not defined by the failure that you have, right? If you have something that it gets pushed out that's imperfect, you're not defined by that. You believe in your ability to grow. You believe in your ability simply because you exist, and I'll give you an example, Dan. When I was 31 years old, I lost both of my parents. My parents died young, and I moved out of the country for an opportunity. So I resigned from being an executive, sold my house, car, everything. And I moved out of the country. After 4 weeks, I lost everything. I had $100 and 2 luggage. So I came back to California. All I had was $100, 2 luggage. My dad had just died. And now my mom just got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer out of nowhere. Okay. So I started building a business, Rise Up For You, because I was like, well, I recruited another executive. So my spot's filled. I could go out there and just start looking for another job, but you know what? I'm going to bet on me. I don't have a business degree. I've never been an entrepreneur. I don't know business, but I had the macro confidence to build more micro confidence, which is building a business, podcasting, that kind of stuff. So with $100 and a broken heart, my mom was passing away. I would take showers at the 24-hour fitness across the street, run back into the hospital, open up a laptop. How do you build a business? What's a podcast? Who's Tony Robbins? What do people need in the world? And I started building my micro level confidence because I understood that even though I was in like the darkest time of my life, my macro confidence, which has always been stable, reminded me that my worth and my value and my ability to learn is not contingent upon all of these things that are falling down next to me. And I was able to build this company. And 5 years later, we're in over 50 countries and we have clients from around the world. And I have team members in the US, Canada, and Turkey.
Man, well, I just want to acknowledge you for that's remarkable. And to come from a scenario like that and to do what you've done is nothing short of amazing. So
thank you.
Congratulations on that.
That. Thank you.
Yeah. When you say the one piece I wanted to tap into a little further is this inner belief that you can grow and you can learn. If you don't have that, how do you start to develop that?
That's a really good question. It's all going to start with mindset, because this is what Carol Dweck talks about, fixed versus growth mindset. Okay. Some people, unfortunately, do believe that no, I can't learn this. This is who I am. And that's it. Right. Like, I can't learn this technology. That's the thing that we see a lot today in the workplace is I can't figure out this technology. I can't. Right. And then the growth mindset is, I have no idea what this is. I don't know anything about it, but I believe that I can learn. Okay. So it takes a lot of mindset shifts to help people realize that all of these skills can be built. If they work hard and if they're dedicated to the growth, then they can learn it. It might not be easy. They might fall, they might suck at it, they might fail, but if they continue to work hard, then they can learn and they can grow. I don't know if you've ever heard this, Dan, but in the performers world, they always say that it's like the sevens that become the most successful, right? And versus the tens, because the sevens are the ones that are like not the best singer in the room. They're not the best dancer in the room, but they have a growth mindset. They believe they can grow. And so they work and work and work to build their skill. And then they eventually become a 10.
Well, that's such an interesting concept. And I'm going to relate it in my life. I had a snowboarding career. I was a professional snowboarder, and I ended up kind of peaking at X Games and got a couple of gold medals and silver medals.
Yeah.
And I can remember when I was younger, I wasn't the most talented in school. I was somewhat athletically gifted, but I wasn't like this extremely athletically gifted child compared to what I saw others doing. And I kind of wonder if maybe that was part of it. I was maybe that 7. And so it was fun. And that addiction to growth was really, the difference of why it maybe worked for me and not for some others.
Absolutely.
So that's an interesting concept. When you said mindset is the key to adjust the inner belief. So what is it that you do to your mindset? Is it affirmations? Is it behaving differently, getting around different people? What do you specifically do for the mindset growth?
Good question. I could say affirmations, and that's definitely a part of it, but I would say that's a very shallow, surfacey kind of answer, right? What I would say is breaking down the belief system to shift the behavior, which is actually very hard. And what I mean by that is that all of us have like a series of behaviors. We have tons of behaviors. All of our behaviors are dictated by our belief system. Okay. So in order to shift the mindset, we have to understand what's the belief system that we built over time, right? Or that maybe it's been projected onto us by culture, society, family, whatever it is. Understanding what your belief system is, and then building a self-awareness around that, and now questioning that belief system, right? Kind of interrogating your belief system, breaking down the walls in your belief system, asking what, why, how, so that we can shift the behaviors to serve you versus sabotage you.
Well, that does sound kind of complicated. So let's just say you're a parent and your child's brain is not yet programmed 100%, but you want to create amazing amounts of self-confidence, not arrogance, but confidence to go out and chase whatever they want. What would be some things you would do, or how would you be behaving with those children?
Okay, here's the first thing I'm going to give up. I'm not a parent yet. Okay, so I'll be completely transparent, but I think about my kids every day because I want to be a parent, and like, how do I want to show up? And I also think about my parents and what did my parents do for my brothers and I. By the way, all three, like all of us, me and my 2 brothers, all have confidence. We always have. So I always reflect, like, what did they do? And I actually think it was really good what they did. The first thing that they did is they made it really, really clear when we were younger, okay, to push your potential, not for anybody but yourself, but that you should always want to be the best for you, because nobody else around you is sustainable. Meaning one day I, as a parent, I'm going to be gone. One day, like, you're going to have a different teacher. And so you're the only constant thing in you. Okay. So if you push your potential because you want the accolade from the leader, or you want validation from the teacher, like, the next year it's going to be somebody else, right? So you're always going to try to find that like validation and people pleasing. So that's like one thing they taught us at a really young age. The second thing they did, which I thought was really important, didn't matter what gender, girl or boy, they put us in sports at a young age so that we can learn to fall and to suck and to fail and to work really, really hard for the game. And it still might not be good enough, right? So they taught us that, like, you can work really, really hard. You can be incredibly disciplined and you still might fall short, and that's okay. So it built the resilience around like failing and sucking, even though we really wanted it and we tried hard. And I think that like understanding that is important, because what it does is, as you get older, right? And now I'm going to go apply for this job and I'm going to put my best foot forward and I have an amazing interview. If I don't get it, like, I've already understood that feeling of working hard and putting my best foot forward. Okay, I didn't get it. Let's move on to the next one. right? Opposed to thinking that I'm a failure, I'm not enough, which is what we see a lot of today in this next generation, the iGen generation. Okay. The third thing is lots of affirmations. My mom always made sure she was very conscious around languaging. Like we couldn't say, I can't. She's like, what do you mean you can't? You can't right now. Can you learn it? And my dad was the same way, right? So being like very conscious around languaging. And then the fourth thing that I think is really important to teach is they always taught us that nobody is better than you and you're not better than anyone. And I think that's a really valuable lesson, because one of the things that I see today is people allow like their leaders, maybe their romantic partners, whatever, treat them poorly because they never really learned that, like, no, like people shouldn't treat you a certain way. They should respect you and you should respect them. So even when we were in high school, if a teacher was mean to us and they called us names, we were taught to say, no, that's not cool. Like, I'm a human being. You shouldn't talk to me that way. Just because you're a teacher doesn't mean it gives you the right to be unkind and disrespectful. They taught that to us at a young age. So what did that do is that as we got older, if we had somebody mistreat us or a leader try to harass us or anything, in our mind, we already had the mentality of like, I don't care what role you have. You're not better than me and I'm not better than you. And I think that is a really important concept. And don't get me wrong, if we thought that we were better than somebody, like we got our booties kicked. My dad was like, no. We're all on the same page. We treat everybody with respect and kindness, and don't let anybody like infringe on your integrity and values. And you better not do the same to anyone else.
Man, that's some great content, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you were listening. I know I am. I'm over here taking notes. And just to kind of recap it for everybody, I think what you said was, make it very clear to push your potential for you, not for anybody else. So if you think you're doing it well, know you can do it better. Number 2 is create resiliency around failing. So if you fail, it's just a moment. It's not who you are. Get up and continue to try again. Create grit. Number 3 was language. Don't use words like I can't. Just be cautious of how you're programming your mind and your children's mind. Number 4 was you taught that no one was better than you, and you weren't better than anybody else. And I was just actually in a leadership course last week in California. And this was one of the main points that the coach was sharing, is that you matter. And you matter as much as everybody else, not more, but you matter. And so does everybody else. And in the matter of the sense that everything you do affects everything. Everything you do affects everyone. The way you behave, the way you bring yourself matters. And so that's really some great stuff. The one I would also potentially add, looking at my childhood, is love your kids unconditionally and create a safe place to fail, and know that no matter if they succeed or fail, you're going to love them regardless. I heard Kobe Bryant say that one. He was out for basketball the first year when he was a young child, and he never scored one game. He didn't score 1 point in one game, Kobe Bryant. And his dad, he was crying at the end of the year. And his dad said, he's like, it's okay. I'm going to love you regardless of how you do. Just keep trying. And the next year, boom, game was on, and he started to, become who he was.
I love that last part that you said, because, think about it. Much of our society is built on a reward system, right? It's, you got an A, good job. It's amazing. You got an A on your homework, right? Versus, hey, mom, I got a C. Okay, let's talk about it. Did you give everything that you had? Did you feel like you put your best foot forward? I feel like I did, mom. I feel like I did, dad. I feel like I really, really tried. Well, then I'm proud of you, because you exuded the best that you could at the moment. You see the difference? Like totally different. So love it.
100%. That's great. Okay. So as a leadership and career confidence coach like you are, what are the most common issues you find people, they're struggling with in their careers, and how would you advise them to overcome some of these challenges?
Yeah. So number one thing is self-confidence, which we've really been talking about quite a bit. The biggest challenge that I see specifically around executives and leaders is lack of ownership. So for example, my team's not doing A, B, C, and D. And I'm like, your entire team? Yeah, like most of them don't. And I'm like, well, let me break this down for you. And it might be really, really hard to swallow, a hard pill to swallow. But if your entire team is not producing the way that you want, guess what the common denominator is going to be? It's going to be the leader. So how do we take ownership, right? Like Jocko, who wrote the book, Extreme Ownership. And that's hard sometimes. But I see one of the bigger challenges that I see with leaders is they always want to point, they're not working. This isn't happening. I need to let them go. And I'm like, whoa. I want you to take a step back here as a leader. what can you do better to change the situation? What can you do better to change the circumstance? Have you exhausted all opportunities to support and grow your team before you point the finger that your team just isn't motivated? They don't have work ethic. They don't know what it is to produce. And I think that that's hard, right? Because that means that people, they have to shine the lens on them. It goes back to the first pillar of EQ, self-awareness, emotional awareness, self-confidence. And how can I be my best for them? And a lot of times the leaders are out there trying to coach and lead. I'm like, listen, you can't lead and coach yourself. How the heck are you going to do it for somebody else?
Gosh, that's some good stuff right there. You were a part of these TED Talks. You had 2 TED Talks, it sounds like. What were the main topics you addressed in those? And, why did you choose those subjects specifically?
Yeah, thank you. I did one TED Talk before COVID hit, and I did it on company culture. And I talked about the importance of soft skills within culture. A lot of times we see cosmetic culture versus like a real company culture rooted in values. And so that TED Talk was based on, the different things that we can do to help create a positive culture based off of these human skills, because you're only as good as your people. Right? Mm-hmm. Organizations are made from people, whether you're an executive or entry level, it's the people that are running and building the culture and the organization and the growth and the profits. Mm-hmm. So that was the first TED Talk that I did. And then the second TEDx that I did was during COVID. So it was virtual. And I decided to hone in on the individual again. And that's where I talked about the self-confidence and the micro versus the macro, and how important it is to kind of tackle this. I call it a pandemic. Honestly, because it's a global issue. No matter where I go in the world, when I talk about confidence, people are nodding their heads, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's the UK, people are just nodding their head because it's a global challenge for me, I think, but I always talk about in the TEDx, like coming from both sides, that we need to reprogram as adults how we feel about ourselves, because if we don't, what do? It's generations and generations. We pass it down to our kids, that our kids grow up and it's the same belief system, right? Tackling it from the top, and then also infusing these human skills, which is confidence, at the education level. Like, it still shocks me how many school systems around the US, around North America, they don't teach soft skills. They don't teach kids how to have leadership and to communicate and to have confidence in themselves. We still have this mindset of, well, you kind of learn it along the way through experience. And it just doesn't really work that way. It's a skill just like everything else.
I have a belief that there's maybe more of a reason why you wouldn't teach the stuff. And I won't go into that here, but I couldn't agree with you more. Like, why would we not be teaching leadership skills and how to be a confident person? And why wouldn't this stuff be what's being programmed into our young children's minds as they're, trying to find their way in life? So I'm right there with you on that. So one thing you said, I just want to make sure I got it right. Cosmetic culture versus company culture, different things we can do to create a positive culture is what you said. What are a couple things, if we have business owners or folks listening, or they want to bring a positive culture to their family life, what are a couple things that they could do immediately to have some signs of growth?
Invest in their people on a physical, mental, and emotional level. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's the training and the development, helping them with purpose, coaching, mentoring them. Like, people in today's world, people want purpose. They want growth. They want to understand like how they're adding value to the company, the trajectory. That's what people want, right? That's the engagement that they want. But we've kind of built this misconception, not every company, but there's a good portion that have kind of like made it about the cosmetic part of the culture. So they have like Taco Tuesday, bagels on a Monday, a slide in the middle of the workplace. Like, they have all these things that are cool and fun, but it's just like the hot boyfriend and girlfriend. It's like, yeah, you're really hot and attractive in the beginning. And then after a while, you're like, I don't feel fulfilled. Like, I'm not connected. Like, the bagels are cool, but what about my growth as a human? Those are the things that we need to start focusing on. And that's why we do so much work with the human soft skills, because when we go into companies and we work with everything from like oil refineries, people that are in the trenches, dealing with solar and energy, technology, nonprofits that are helping homeless. So like, we're pretty wide in regards to the industries that we work with. But when we go in there and we do a class, for example, on confidence, the energy and like the motivation that people have when they walk out of there, it's like, oh, I really needed this. And I was feeling really stuck in my life, not just in my career, but with my kids. And I just feel, I feel rejuvenated. Like it's a different type of investment that you're giving to them when you invest in mind, body, soul.
Yeah. Wow. What would be, let's just say, looking at your personal life, what would be some of the biggest key takeaways you've made or pivots you had to make in your life that has helped you become, who you are and the leader of a confidence, basically a confidence company?
Yeah, I mean, we teach like it's soft skills. Everything that we do is soft skills, and confidence, falls under that. One of the biggest things that I've had to learn is like I always have to do the work too. I'm really big on integrity. I can't stand up in front of people and talk about emotional and social intelligence and leadership if I'm a crappy leader. Like that's the reality. And so I've had to stretch myself quite a bit and also stretch my emotional intelligence, because I've been put in situations where I get, upset or assertive or frustrated. And I have to remind myself, like, all right, if you're going to teach this, you better practice it. You better do it. Something that's always been a struggle for me that I work on every day is empathy. So in this process, I would say in this process of building a business is realizing that not everybody works the same, and not everybody thinks the same, and not everybody has the same drive when it comes to their career. Mm-hmm. Right. And mm-hmm. So how do I, as a business owner, show empathy whilst at the same time maintaining expectations? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
Hard to do. How do you do that?
That's hard. The old me would have been like, just freaking like get over it. Right. Excuse my language. It's like, make it work, figure it out. Like, if I can figure it out, you could. And it wasn't coming from a place of like unkindness, but it was coming from a place of, if I can do it, you could too. Right. That was my mentality. Like, can't you see that we're the same? So if I'm making it happen, I'm not better than you. You can do it too. Right. Yeah. But it just came out harsh. And I learned along the way that honesty without compassion is cruelty.
Let's hear that again. So, yeah.
Honesty without compassion is cruelty. And so I really had to learn how to be more empathetic and to still be honest and to set expectations, while at the same time understanding how to speak in a language that person can receive.
Mm-hmm. Language, being careful with your word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Okay. Wow. So I want to kind of start to wind this down, and I wanted to talk a little bit about being that you're a successful female entrepreneur and a role model. What advice would you give to other women who maybe are aspiring to start their own business, or who are young, getting into their, first line of work?
When you walk into a room, when you put your business out there, I need you to get rid of any beliefs or projections that you might have that men are not going to support women, or that women are going to tear down other women. I see a lot of women sabotage their success because of predetermined beliefs and thoughts that they have about being a woman in business, that they now project and then create the reality. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
100%.
I mean, I will, I always use myself. I'm a woman and I'm Arab, right? I'm Middle Eastern. Yeah. Not once in my career ever, when I was an educator, when I was a performer, when I was an executive, I was always in a room full of men. Not once was I ever put down. Not once was I ever held back. Not once was I ever harassed in any way, shape, or form, because I always went in with the attitude of, I'm just going to show up as my best. And like, I'm just going to deliver. I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to show up. And like, me being a woman really wasn't like a thing I thought about. Yeah. So they never thought about it.
I couldn't agree more with that, Netta. I'm so glad that you've said that. And I think about that because we have some women who are business partners of ours, and man, I love working with them. They have such a different perspective, and they've got some very powerful ways of being that I truly admire and are massively critical to our business. And what you just said is, you show up with that belief that no one's going to put you down. They want to help you. And that's the reality you then create. And I hope that can be heard. And even for folks that you're just a man and you're in heading to a business meeting, have the same mentality, have that mentality and belief system. That's so powerful. So I'm so glad you shared that. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So Netta, thanks so much for coming on the show. If someone wants to get a hold of you, how would they go about doing so? And what's the best way to connect?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dan. So you can head over to riseupforyou.com. We have a ton of free resources there. We have a master success kit all about confidence, emotional intelligence, like public speaking, presence, building success. It's totally free. And our handle is at Rise Up For You everywhere. LinkedIn, Instagram, podcast, YouTube, the same. And then you can definitely connect with me as well personally. I'm most often on LinkedIn. And I run my own LinkedIn. My social media manager does not. So you can send me a message, you can reach out to me, and I'll be the one to answer if you're interested.
Thank you everyone for tuning into this week's show. If you gained value from it, leave us a review and please share it with a friend, and we'll see you next week.
Imagine a life where you can have it all. A booming career, fantastic love life, great health and success, and overall achievement and happiness. Imagine pushing your potential to your absolute best and every day living a life that you are proud of. Well, if this sounds like something that you're yearning for, then the Rise Up For You Growth membership is perfect for you. My team and I believe in supporting you and helping you get to the next level because we know that you can do and have what it takes to be your best. When you join our membership, you get access to live trainings every single month with myself and our team. You get free coaching. You get a number of on-demand resources to help level up your success that you can use in the comfort of your own home. And you get access to our global membership around the world, full of like-minded professionals that are looking to be their best. Your time is now to push your potential and live the life that you want to live. So if you're ready to take the next step in your life and in your career, join the Rise Up For You Growth membership. Click below and we'll see you there.